Investors don't like theater, they like stability. They understand now and again that you have to make adjustments, but they don't like the mystery. Investment is the very opposite. Mystery is the enemy of investment.
And Thomas Del Beccaro joins me now. Good morning.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Now, there's a lot of holding of breath going on here in the UK at the moment. Nobody quite knows what Donald Trump is going to do on tariffs. I assume that you are in the same boat.
Yeah, much of the United States is, the stock market is, and others. I mean, it's apparent that there will be some raising of tariffs. We're just going to have to see how far he's going to go.
And is that a move that is welcomed by all Republicans?
Certainly not. There was actually a view among Republicans in the Congress and the Senate, a resolution in the Senate saying that they don't like this approach. There are other Republicans concerned about it, but it is not just Republicans. There are Democrats who are really in favor of this. Many of them related to the auto industry, but uh, so it crosses both parties here in the United States.
And in terms of your own views on this, I mean, we've heard from many Americans, American sort of political pundits, American politicians who say this is Donald Trump's way of evening things out, that international trade has been unfair for quite some time, and that's his motivation here. Do you think that that's accurate? Is that what's driving him to do this?
I do think he would like to see reciprocity. I do think he has a sincere belief that tariffs can be effective with respect to protecting a home market. You know, the United States in after the revolution, you might recall that protected northern the development of industry in the United States during the 1800s, and so I think he does have a sincere belief in that regard.
But what about the impact on industries? I mean, there's a lot of export from the UK, for example. Some of the biggest sectors are pharmaceuticals, the automotive industry. But on pharmaceuticals, particularly, there are American companies who are saying we can't keep making the products that we make here without the components that we import from the UK. It will push prices up for American consumers.
Yes, it will distort the market. The question is whether this is a plan to create reciprocity, like is occurring between the United States and Israel now, and perhaps Vietnam, who has or stated that they were going to slash tariffs in it to reach some sort of equilibrium. In the long term, if the United States puts up very large tariffs, it will be disrupted. It will raise prices, and so the question is it a short or a long term plan?
And what's your view on that?
Well, I'm hopeful that, of course, it will be a short term plan. If we go back to Adam Smith and go through to Milton Friedman, consumers are the ones who pay for tariffs in the long run. America has benefited from manufacturers around the world. On the other hand, what isn't talked about nearly enough by anyone on this subject is the reason why so much business has left the United States for China, India, and these other places is the cost of doing business in the United States. And so, regardless of whether you have a tariff plan, the United States must lower the cost of doing business here. Money goes where it is welcome. It has been unwelcome in the United States the last 50 years with blips between Reagan, Bush 43, and Trump. But the reason why those businesses left is because American regulators and tax laws pushed them out.
And does Donald Trump have a plan for that?
Yes, they are planning significant deregulation. Regulations in the United States cause maybe $2 to $2.5 trillion a year. That number should probably be in the 1 trillion range. And so, yes, he needs to bring those down. But the question remains. There's tariffs. You may bring companies here on tariffs, but you still have to, like I say, address the reason why they left it to begin with.
Just finally, the ceremony of this, if you like. I mean, Donald Trump is said to want to make a big bang. It's fair to say he's got the whole world talking about his plan for tariffs and everybody waiting to see what he's going to say today. How much of this is theatre? And is that a strategy, a political strategy, that you think is a winner?
There is some theater to this. I personally wouldn't do it this way. I would say that there's a 90-day period. We're sending our negotiators over. And certainly with regard to Great Britain, this is the UK, this is an enormous opportunity to work together and create this more level playing field to be a model for the rest of the world, like Israel is with the United States. So investors don't like theater, they like stability. They understand now and again that you have to make adjustments, but they don't like the mystery. Investment is the very opposite. Mystery is the enemy of investment.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Let's head to Washington, D.C. The trade policy reporter for Politico and author of the daily trade policy newsletter, Morning Trade, Ari Hawkins, is here. Ari, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Ari, I think we really want to know what you're going to be writing in your newsletter tomorrow morning. What do you think it might say?
I think that there is uncertainty really is the name of the game when it comes to Trump's tariff policies. There are a number of different ways he could go about this. We've seen that he's reportedly already started drafting up plans for a 20% universal baseline tariff that could hit all countries. But that's only one option in the mix. I think businesses are really going to have to navigate quite a few different scenarios. And even from within the White House, it's not clear if there's a singular approach that Donald Trump is definitely going forward with.
The approach we do know is that a lot of this has been about theatre. You know, some of the words and the language has been very grandiose, you know, saying that this is going to restore the golden age of America. It seems to be, Ari, that the president is putting sort of political motivations ahead of, at least in the short term, economic ones.
Most economists, I think, would indicate that the short-term economic impact of especially universal across-the-board tariffs would harm the U.S. economy and the economy of our trading partners. It's worth noting, however, that the rhetoric of bringing American manufacturing back using tariffs as a negotiating tool, all of that polls quite well in the U.S. up until potentially there is that economic impact. It's unclear the extent to which this will actually hinder the Trump administration, although the looming threat of a recession and the stock market going wild once again would definitely be something that the U.S. public and the president would take notice of.
You've mentioned, Ari, that there's a lot of uncertainty. What do we know? It seems that tariffs will be immediate. So there'll be no sort of grace period for countries. And Donald Trump said that all countries could be impacted. Do we know much more than that?
I would say that we don't even necessarily know that for certain. The president and White House spokespeople have said that tariffs would take immediate effect. However, folks like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in interviews have said that, have suggested rather, that there could be a negotiating period after countries see whatever tariff rate might be applied to them. I think that there's quite a lot up in the air at this point, and tariffs are coming. That would be probably the statement that we know for certain, and everything beyond that, there's a lot of push and pull and seemingly some disagreement from within the White House as to how to go about this.
And obviously, UK negotiators were sort of quite desperate to get an exemption for Britain, but that doesn't look likely.
I think it's tough to say, and it might not necessarily be straight off the bat. There were UK officials in the US recently who talked about potentially gaining some type of exemption. And I was speaking to one White House official who praised specifically the United Kingdom and India, interestingly enough, as countries that were taking a proactive approach to try to get ahead of Trump's concerns. But yes, they stopped short of confirming that there would be, that they were even, frankly, on a strong path to getting that exemption. It'll be difficult to say, but it's also worth noting that some of the ideas floated around there are that certain countries might not get hit with tariffs immediately, potentially only countries that have a trade deficit or other key concerns that the Trump administration has outlined. Whether or not the UK fits into that is anyone's guess at this point.